This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. For those of you that haven't heard, they're talking about the potential of a major solar flare, a magnetic cloud, and flares from a sunstorm are hurtling towards the Earth. And of course, this could impact power and communications. And the reason I'm covering it is because one of these times, they're going to go through and use an EMP on the masses. I mean, that is very, very clear. Now, will this be a kill shot EMP, or will this be a test run where we see a place like Alabama, or we see a specific state that they decide to shut off for a short period of time by saying that this solar flare, this 6 geomagnetic solar flare that they're claiming is heading towards Earth, has given them an excuse, of course, to shut the power off and see how people respond to it. Anytime there's events like this, it's an absolute certainty that it's your government messing with you. Because people out there don't seem to understand about those towers that have gone up around us, those microwave radiation towers, that they could send frequencies from those towers as well to short circuit technology. We also know over the years we've seen them openly discuss how our own government has the ability with these lights out airplane devices, much like we see with the direct energy weapons. They have a direct energy weapon where they can literally short circuit all of our technology. Now, the problem that people seem to have is understanding why the government would do it. But nuking of the power grid, shutting off electricity, shutting off electronics will wipe out a good portion of the population for an extended period of time. People do not have enough food to survive a week. Most people don't have enough food to survive days. They will not have water. They'll become more dependent on the government, which is ultimately what they want. Also, on top of that, we know they want to destroy the critical infrastructure. They want to, they have to move forward with a new world order, because everything will run on this new infrastructure through the internet. So by shutting everything off temporarily, people will become more compliant when things come back online to get things like a digital ID and everything else that they want you to have embedded inside of you. So let's take a look at some of the stories out there about this solar flare and the warnings about a grid shutdown. Again, I don't think this will be the kill shot, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see a test run down here, because anytime they tell us that there's a solar flare, there's something happening in the sky, these are likely things that they're doing, man-made things that they're manipulating, like the last eclipse, and how conveniently right after that, even though they tell us years in advance when eclipses are coming, we weren't supposed to have an eclipse in 2024. In 2023, late in the year, they told us that, oh, wait a minute, there's going to be an eclipse in 2024. They told us before that it wasn't going to be until 2028. And then days after the eclipse, what do they tell us? They tell us, hey, you know, there's going to be companies out there that can do man-made eclipses. Well, we already know that China has a, an artificial sun and all these other things. So we can't trust the things that they're showing us. But what we can trust is the fact that we know we can't trust these people. And on top of a grid shutdown, we know that they've been poisoning the minds of people out there, preparing them using predictive programming for a grid shutdown. That's what Leave the World Behind is. How many movies can we all think of where they've done large EMP attacks? We can even think of things like Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12. Those types of movies where they've shut down casinos. They've used EMP simulators to show you what it would look like if they shut down entire cities by using this type of technology. So listen to the news anchors first, then we'll go into detail about EMPs and what could potentially go down. But listen to the news anchors. All of them strategically talk about the word infrastructure.
Today, a rare space event is happening. It's so out of the ordinary that for the first time in about 20 years, the Space Weather Prediction Center has issued a level 4 geomagnetic storm watch alert. If you're like me, you're saying, huh, what does that mean? Well, meteorologist Lauren Rainson is tracking this for us and also learning how it could affect us right here on Earth today, Lauren.
That's right. Overnight, the sun discharged a massive solar flare toward Earth, and today parts of the U.S. could see the northern lights. The severe solar storm could trigger colorful auroras as far south as Alabama, and here out west, areas as far south as northern California might also see some of the auroras. NASA says watchers at this level are, or I should say, yeah, watches, they're very rare, and this is an extremely unusual event. So let me break it down. The Space Weather Prediction Center says at least 5 coronal mass ejections have been directed toward Earth. These explosions of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun's corona create the storm. If strong enough, the storms could impact infrastructure, potentially disrupting communications, the electric power grid, navigation, radio, and satellite operations here on Earth.
It is not the only big weather headline right now. Take a look, a strong solar storm could disrupt communications and produce northern lights across the country. So take a look at this photo. What you're looking at is from NASA. It shows the sun emitting a strong solar flare. It happened this morning. So when intense enough, solar flares can disturb the atmosphere in the layer where our GPSs and communication signals travel. So what does this mean for you? Sandra, you listened in on a call from NOAA a short time ago. I'm fascinated by this. I know you are too. Explain more about what this means for us.
All right, so you have the center of the sun, that's the corona, and we talk about a coronal mass ejection. That comes after you see that sort of burst of radiation, which is the flare, and it really is dependent upon where it's aimed. So those magnetized particles now are aimed toward Earth. So that's why, for the first time since 2005, the first time in 19 years, that's a geomagnetic storm watch, level 4. It goes to live. It's basically this for the people who deal with the infrastructure, who deal with the power grids, the satellite communications, and the radio situation. There are already radio outages reported right now in Asia, in parts of Europe, and in Africa. So possible disruption of cellular GPS and satellite communications. Not necessarily the case, but those who are on guard need to be advised. We're in a solar maximum with the sun cycle, and we're likely to see more of these sort of events in the upcoming days. This watch is active all weekend long. The cool side of this, the gift of it, is the aurora. Aurora can be seen as far south as Alabama with the naked eye, and then somebody asked the question about South Florida. Can we even see it here? It's possible, long shot, but you can't see it with your eyes. But if you take your phone, you aim it to the sky, and it's clear, you might be surprised they said it, what you catch.
So again, I love too how one of the news anchors said that it was targeting Earth. Yeah, of course it's targeting Earth, right? It's targeting Earth. These things, these phenomena just keep happening. When we know the government has the ability to do these types of things, these things just keep happening over and over and over again in our sky, these weird sounds. How many videos have you all seen from channels out there about weird sounds in the sky, things I've covered in the past? These are all things that they're doing. These are all things that they're manipulating. So when they come out and tell you that there's going to be a solar flare, they're not doing this to prepare you. They're doing it because then they have an excuse to do a test run. So some people think it'll be a kill shot EMP with the 6 geomagnetic solar flares that are supposedly coming. You also have to keep in mind those towers that they put up. They put those up strategically, okay? Nobody out there's noticed their phone running faster because it's not. Those towers, they could just turn it up a notch. They could turn up the frequency on those things, and they could directly take the grid down. That way they could take down your electronics. That way they could shut off your Wi-Fi that way. And again, even right now as I speak on Twitter, or X, excuse me, Antichrist X, a lot of people are talking about what would happen because they're hearing the solar flare if the Wi-Fi's out. Well, people lose their minds. Nobody knows how to function. That's why now is the time for them to move forward. 10 years ago, people weren't so dependent on the internet as they are now. Now people can't get off the internet. Again, you could go to an outdoor place like a national park and you'll still see people walking around on their phones, taking pictures on their phones, looking things up on their phones. Their conscious is now on the internet. They're part of the internet of bodies and they're dependent on it. So a grid shutdown, an internet shutdown, a Wi-Fi shut off, anything that they do with an EMP will cause chaos. On top of that, people don't even know how to prepare their own food without calling Uber Eats, which they won't be able to do if there is in fact an EMP. Now, I'm not positive of what will occur here, but I will show you how time and time again, they've openly talked about the government having even the ability to create and use an EMP as a weapon of war. And remember, the only people they're at war with are their own civilians, especially the ones who are not so compliant. Take a listen.
Some of the weapons the military gets to play with these days are straight out of science fiction. Things like railguns and laser cannons. Well, now you can add one more to the list, the electromagnetic pulse device, or CHAMP. Here's how it works. If you can focus enough energy on a target, you can fry any electrical system in use, whether it's computers or the wiring for lights. Electromagnetic pulse phenomena, or EMP, was first observed during the testing of nuclear weapons. But fortunately, the CHAMP device doesn't require a nuclear explosion, or any explosion at all. Like they said in Ocean's 11, where they used one to rob a casino, it's like a bomb, but without the bomb. So when does it go into service? Well, according to the Air Force, it's already deployed, along with the LAW's laser system and that long-distance heat ray thing.
Newt Gingrich.
Asked during the debate to name the security threats that worry him, Newt Gingrich lays out 3 scenarios: a weapon of mass destruction in an American city, a cyber attack, and something many have never heard of.
Electromagnetic pulse attack, which would literally destroy the country's capacity to function.
An electromagnetic pulse attack, or EMP. It's been the stuff of fiction on the Fox show 24.
It's an EMP!
But it's also a real threat, experts say, and it likely wouldn't look like that. An EMP attack, they say, is an intense burst of electromagnetic radiation. It can be triggered by detonating a nuclear weapon at high altitude, a weapon that could be launched by a rogue nation or a terrorist group with access to it. Detonated low to the ground, atomic weapons have a devastating physical shock. But detonated miles up in the atmosphere, experts say, the main impact is electrical, energy that doesn't kill people but spreads like lightning, striking any electrical grid or circuitry, feeding into them, burning them out. Whole cities could go dark. Security analyst James Carafano has written about EMP attacks.
In one single event, what could be disabled? If you had a large-scale EMP event in the United States, everything would be disabled. Because even things that weren't knocked out, let's say your car, which might be okay, but the electrical grid's going to be gone. There's going to be no way to do traffic lights. There's going to be no way to land ships. There's no way to get fuel to the gas stations to refuel your car. If you got them, the gas pumps wouldn't work.
Think of this fictional attack in the movie Ocean's 11. We demonstrated electromagnetic interference on a much smaller, less threatening scale at the University of Maryland, showing how magnetic fields from some electronic devices often interfere with other devices.
You hear this ringing behind me? We're showing you what electromagnetic interference is. Say this television is a car. The car's function is rolling along normally. Here's a cell phone ringing. When it gets close to that, you can see how the audio of the television signal changes. You hear the interference. That's essentially it's interfering with the car's function.
But with a large-scale EMP attack, experts say, computers would fail, telecommunications cut off, bank accounts inaccessible. They say that's because the transformers that power many electrical grids take a long time to manufacture and transport, and with transportation knocked out by the attack, that prolongs the isolation.
So again, they're warning about the potential of this EMP coming from the solar flares, right? And these are always excuses for them to do these types of experiments. Oh, the grid's down in, let's just say, Alabama or South Carolina. The grid's off, everything's off. Oh, it's just the solar flare, right? But in reality, it would just be them flicking a switch. It would be them, even if they want to short circuit a lot of the technology, they could do like you saw in the Boeing. Boeing, who is in the news a lot these days, right? Boeing has the ability to create something along those lines. That's very clear. That's old technology. That's not new. There's a lot of people that think direct energy weapons and things that we all know of now were even used in those towers going down on the 11th day of September many years ago, right? So there's lots of things that we know that they have. The question is, when are they going to go forward and use it? It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We all hear that motto all the time. They use it themselves. But it's a question of, do you actually think that they wouldn't use it on us? Right? They already see that people are questioning what's going on. They see that people aren't compliant. And we know they have all these underground bunkers built out and prepared, okay? It's not necessarily for them to prepare underground to hide from us. I know people out there think that. It's actually while they destroy the Earth's surface, they can go underground. They'll have everything they need underground already. And if they do turn up the frequencies on those towers, if they do decide, hey, you know what? The towers have been in place a few years now. It's about time we start turning it up and we start cranking that microwave radiation out on the civilians. Now, we know a lot of people out there will be affected by it because some people out there, well, they have a certain something inside their body that attracts, it's pretty magnetic. It attracts microwave frequencies. So this could be the potential for them to actually unleash this on the public. Of course, they're warning about this all around the United States. It's trending online. And again, I would look for personally, I've seen a lot of people out there talking about the kill shot. At some point, there will be a kill shot EMP. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do an experimental run on some specific location, and if they knock out the internet or electronics for a period of time, they can study. Remember, the data they constantly talk about, the data they're obsessed with is us, watching our behavior, monitoring what we're saying. This is what they do so they could be incognito all the time. They watch, they monitor, they stay in the shadows. They always are listening, they're always watching. I'm telling you right now, the thing that happened in 2020, the outbreak, they were surprised at how many people they found out were anti-magic potion. They weren't expecting it to be the way it was. They weren't expecting, people out there, all that stuff that we've always talked about for years and years and years to become household discussions, but it did. So they obviously created things to, silence people like us. They created things to put, barriers up in people's minds so they don't listen to people like us, to discredit people like us. We've seen how conspiracy theories become the new normal term to dismiss anything, any questioning of the government. So if they do a test run, and they do anything, if anything happens that we hear about a solar flare knocking out an electrical system somewhere, know this, that's them doing a test run. It is not a solar flare. It is them doing an experiment. Why? Well, because the stuff that we're getting is from NASA. Okay, the stuff that we're getting is from NOAA, another government agency, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. None of them can be trusted. They couldn't be trusted as far as you can spit, okay? These people are deceivers and they're liars, and they do these things and create these things to watch how we'll respond to it. And ultimately, they need to make sure that people are convinced that their narrative is the truth that's out there. People will believe it, because ultimately, things like this and things like weather modification, nobody out there can grasp that the government has the capability to do it, especially direct energy weapons at this point. Right? We know weather modification, nobody will believe anything we say, even though you can look up yourself every day and see the clouds seeding in the geoengineering. You would have thought the stuff in Dubai might have woke people up, but we haven't really seen many people wake up even when they openly tell you they can make it rain. So we know that the weather modification is tough for them to grasp. The abnormality of tornadoes and hurricanes over and over again on a day-in, day-out basis. You clearly see they're targeting specific spots with the weather modification. The same can be said with stuff like this, solar flares. Right? The same thing. They just go, oh, okay, it's a solar flare. I don't even know. Okay, whatever. I'm going to look up in the sky. I hope I see the northern lights. That's their mindset. That's their mindset. They don't realize that the government, even with direct energy weapons, they can see all this stuff possible. And they just dismiss it. Like, I don't know. That's boring stuff. Oh, direct energy weapon, right? Well, the government has direct energy weapons, and then you go, well, who are they going to use it on? They're like, oh, they're going to use it on the big bad boogeyman. Oh, right. They could use it at the border. They could use it in all these different situations to keep people at bay. But what do? Well, they create fires. They hurt people by moving them, by creating these fires. They destroy food supply chain, etc. So a solar flare would not be a natural occurring solar flare. It could be a test run. Keep an eye out on the story. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.